ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Friday Night Live. I'm with my co-host, Sean. My name is Kesh. We've got producer Ryan. Marconi has not been feeling well today, so he unfortunately couldn't join us. But hey, guess what? He got the best of 3. I can say stuff when Mark's not here. Now, look, today was... I've been speaking to Sean about something called deflation, and I'm going to come back to that in the end. But really, I think it's more than ever important to do a little bit of a mindset piece. Often we watch videos, we watch motivational stuff, we watch all sorts of things to essentially change our state and feel a little bit better about getting through hardship. But you know what? Those videos get old. You feel like, I've heard it all. But something doesn't change, right? And Sean, I know you from a personal level. You're a very resilient man, whether it comes to business, real estate, personal life, a lot of things. And what I really wanted to talk to people about and make it really short and sharp today is the importance of resilience and where people can, and without being too preachy and rah-rah, we're not trying to be the next Tony Robbins, but realistically, what we know for a fact is if you're changing your status, and I don't just mean this financially, whether it's physically, whether it is emotionally, whether it's relationships, whether it's financially, whatever it is, you're upgrading yourself. It always is full of roadblocks, full of challenges. Same thing with investments. Like you and I both know when everything goes smoothly, we go, is it too good to be true? Because things do go wrong. So, mate, if you could break it down for our audience, just resilience in general, like forget real estate, forget all of that today, but when someone is really down and out, burnt out, where do we go find the power? Where does someone start from?
Good question. Great question, Kesh. And I think, resilience, just for the sake of resilience, is this, it's too wide of a topic to start breaking it down into certain aspects. But one thing that I wanted to stress is resilience in the face of adversity. And resilience, when you're talking about adversity, is that you have a stubborn goal that you've done, let's say, for example, everything that it took to achieve said goal, but things still don't go your way. Maybe you've run out of time for the deal that you were trying to get done. Maybe you've run out of patience for the amount of hours that you want to put in. Or maybe it's just a simple situation where circumstances didn't align. So resilience in the face of adversity really depends on a couple of things. I think number one is, what was your end goal? And when we're looking at what your end goal is, you've got ways of deciphering, what an end goal is out of a situation. It could be a financial result. It could be a psychological result. We talk about this from a lifestyle perspective, that people are on a hidden or unknown version of a pursuit of happiness.
Yes.
And when we're talking about a pursuit of happiness, that could be in the situation going, I'm happy-est when I am trying to overcome obstacles on the way to achieving my goal. I think where people lose track of being resilient in certain situations is where they attach success to the goal being achieved at said date. And we know this all the time.
Sorry, just stop you there. Can you say that again for the audience? That is gold.
That wasn't prepared, so I don't even know what I said, to be completely honest and candid, but I can try again. So whenever people attach...
It's very important.
Sure. Whenever people attach success with completion of a goal at a said time, that might feel like there's... So resilience is not only success with a goal achieved at a certain point in time. That milestone might not be the same milestone that you had when you set out to achieve said goal. But we don't need to cave into ourselves and say that I haven't achieved said goal by a certain deadline or whatever it was. I think resilience is that in the face of adversity, that if things don't go your way, more importantly, what are you still doing and trying to draw happiness from? So individually, we're all in a very hidden way on the pursuit of happiness in our own individual scenarios.
I agree.
Where resilience can have an environment where it's easily able to succeed is when you attach the pursuit of happiness with a journey instead of an end goal. Now, I hope that makes a little bit more sense for everyone else.
It does, and I might add to that because I've learned this the hard way. Because society, companies, we all work towards deadlines. Otherwise, it's all airy-fairy. And often when you are pursuing something that, and we get stuck in our bubble, I surely am guilty of it. When you read articles of a 20-year-old who's a billionaire, founder, success person, or someone with a great relationship, whatever it might be, right? And when your timeline doesn't match up to that one person, we often forget that there's 7-8 billion people who would change in the world, that would, majority of them would swap places with you in a heartbeat.
True.
Right? So we get very, very, where it's very important, I think, and what you're saying makes so much sense, is if it means so much to you, and if you don't enjoy, again, don't want to sound preachy, you don't enjoy the journey, and often a lot of people don't, because being successful at a relationship, money, property, business, anything, is more of a marathon. And I've learned that the hard way, I'll confess, because we logically always think step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and this is what the outcome should be.
True.
The reality is it doesn't work like that. There's so many things that we think we're in control of, but we're not. We're not.
Yeah.
Like, speaking of real estate, there have been situations where, missing a settlement date, and say, for example, we were purchasing a land and we wanted to build a house. And there were situations where you go, you know what? The finance is getting really complicated. The vowels are not working out. I'm going to take a punt. I'm going to settle the land.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I'm going to settle the land and I'm going to work out the rest. Now, if building an investment portfolio in that circumstance is important to you and you're resilient, you will go, you know what? It doesn't make logical sense and it is scary, but I'm on this journey and I'm going to figure it out.
Yep.
It's not the most ideal way to go about it, but I'm going to figure this out. And I feel people who are really in love with their destination, but are enjoying the journey, they believe in themselves, right? And we see this often, and I mean this with love, I mean this with respect, and Sean, correct me if I'm wrong. Often when I come across friends, family, clients who come up with objections for their own goals, not my goals, not your goals, their own goals, I often feel that it is not really that important to them. It's not a priority. It's a convenience thing.
Yep.
And if anything doesn't go as per plan, they're the first to tap out. And I personally believe the time you're trying to drop the towel, you're just around the corner. And it's sort of the universe testing how badly do you want it. Would you agree with that?
110%.
Have you had situations where you want to drop the towel and you just said, you know what, let me just give it another 3 months and really push it through?
Multiple times. I think when people face this all the time, where if we just take a very practical example, let's say someone wants to compete at an event and they need to drop weight to make the event. Is that a negotiable factor to
Don't come for
compete?
dinner with me.
Don't go to dinner with Kesh if you want to make weight for your next fight campaign. But let's say you're a professional fighter and you need to make a certain amount of weight to compete for the big prize. Now, we know a ghastly amount of sacrifices you have to make to actually make a certain weight to compete in fights.
Oh, yeah. Hats off. Yep.
Although, for the fighter, that becomes a non-negotiable part of what they signed up for.
They don't care if it's birthday, anniversary.
Correct.
Could be
How
any
does it
festival.
matter? It could have been Queen's birthday long weekend, Anzac long weekend. It could have been all the boys deciding to go out, and it could have been someone's bachelor's party on the same night.
Doesn't matter.
If you have to make weight for your fight, which is the whole reason you signed up to do what you were doing, that becomes what we officially describe as a non-negotiable. So in life, and we made a slight joke about this at the beginning of today, which was about, we're not going to get all Tony Robbins and everyone, but Matthew McConaughey, who we love and adore from his talent, did an event with Tony Robbins lately. He did an event with Tony Robbins lately, big digital event.
Yes.
And I think he recently released something that was talking a lot about green lights versus red lights.
Ooh.
And Matthew McConaughey said that. So I think it was a concept about one of his books, Green Lights, and the whole journey was about making sure that cross more green lights than you do red lights, run more greens than you do reds, get into a momentum of knowing that you're doing something that fulfills the purpose, same time gets you closer to your destination. Don't get bogged down by the big picture, because what a lot of people do in our industry is you might have big goals, you might have a lot of motivation to maybe build a portfolio or maybe build a giant client book, and then you're always got that end goal in your face every single day. All we can do is do what we can control in our nature, which is, did I live today to the best of my ability? Did I, analyze the right amount of things? Did I decide to execute on the right amount of things? After that, what else as human beings can we really do? And I was having a podcast with this about Mark last week, and we were talking about this other concept that was very similar in the mindset chat that we're having today, which was, what are the things that we can control? So what really separates the top 1% versus the rest of everyone else is the top 1% are stubborn to their goals, but they realize that when they get knocked down and they don't get what they want, they don't just bounce back up and do exactly what they did before. So they avoid the definition of insanity, and they decide to really take in going, what can I take away from this? What can I decide to
Learn
change
and adapt
and be adaptable on that journey? Happiness is something where I believe personally it's individualistic to everyone else.
I agree.
It's not something that you can tell someone going, money will make you happy, or cars will make you happy.
No.
Although I know that money and cars will make a lot of people happy.
Yes, they will. Cars definitely. Look, honestly, I don't care if it's a Golf GTR or a Bugatti. If you're into cars and you drive... Look, I digress here, but if you lock your car and you don't turn around and look at it, I don't care what it is. It could be a no badge. It could be a Fiat. I don't care. As long as it gets you excited, you get excited going on your journey.
You had a really good analogy there. Lock your car, and then when you're walking away, you just take a small glance back at it to make sure she's okay.
Bro, I remember having a Honda Accord 3-liter V. I love that thing. I still love that thing.
That was a VTEC, though.
VTEC.
So it's a special breed, right?
Yeah, that was like one of my first ever cars.
I think a lot of good car enthusiasts always started out with a good Honda Accord V6 VTEC.
100%, right?
I did as well, by the way.
So these things, nostalgia, these things make you happy. And I completely agree with you. Now, speaking of resilience, do you think people tap out because not that the journey got difficult, but they know in their heart that they've not been able to put the effort and they're losing confidence in themselves? And they might be reflecting and blaming people, society, family, partners, but refuse to see that, you know what, hand on my heart, did I really, really swing for the fences? Or was this it was a nice social thing to say, saying, hey, yeah, like everyone wants to be rich, good looking and loved, right? But what are you actually doing about it?
Yeah, I think I learned this about 16, 17 years ago when I was way back reading one of these quotes from Henry Ford, opening up a book and his quote was right there in bold print saying, usually when you think you can or you think you can't, usually you're right.
I love that.
And it goes...
So it's a 50-50 chance, yeah.
Well, it's 50-50, but more importantly, it's what you think you can or think you can't. So when there's someone who's stubborn enough to their goals that it might seem a little bit far-fetched, but they decide that they really can, because of whatever reason. It could be that they believe in their resilience, or it could believe that they have the magic ingredient to make it work. Usually when you yourself think you can or you can't, you know the outcome at the end of the day, with whatever journey you're deciding to embark on.
Actually, you know what? We've got a client, you and I. I'm not going to name drop people here without their permission, but moved first generation immigrants.
Kenneth Jones. That's just a joke. That's just a joke.
Moved first generation immigrants, husband and wife, beautiful couple, average jobs, and with very, very little savings, starting from nothing, almost a 5-year journey. Like this person in our industry would be D&Q, does not qualify to do anything. Right. But you and I both know when we find someone in our industry who goes, you know what, on paper I don't look like it, but just tell me what to do and I'll get it done. Yeah. Mate, this guy and his wife with very average incomes have been able to build up a $2.5 million portfolio. It's taken them 5 years. But
insane.
I know people who could do $2.5 million tomorrow morning. When it was COVID, there was an issue. Now, interest rates is an issue. A leaf fell in the street is an issue.
True.
The reality is you're the issue.
Yeah.
So, again, I'm not saying this from a perspective of, go and buy anything and everything. I'm not saying that at all. But this person, even till date, the couple that we know is still pushing. Even though interest rates have gone up, they have substantial amount of equity now, and the borrowing doesn't allow for it. This guy's now trying to go and say, you know what? How can I add another 80,000? He's not come back and said, oh, this is too hard. I'm going to give up. He's gone, how do I add another 80,000? Like questions that I'm getting asked are, if I worked part-time, how will the bank look at that? If I did this, what would that look like? If I did, it's not about this is too hard. Can I tap out? It's more about what can I do? And even questions like, hey, if you think I'm being silly and I'm not making enough money in my industry, do I change industries? Do I take 3 steps back to take 4 steps forward?
Now, those are qualities that scream out at me going that is someone who thinks he can. Because he's looking for, well, okay, what are the possible hurdles that I can face?
Both husband and wife.
How can I overcome those? So I think that there's a certain level of ego management that comes with people that think they can do things, and that they realize that they won't let their ego come in the way. For example, let's say this person was a top-level logistics manager making 140,000 AUD a year, but he needed an extra $25,000 a year to get his dream portfolio. It does take a certain level of ego management to put your ego aside and go to Uber and take that.
Dude, he literally said, do you want me to pack boxes and Coles? Do you want me to go Uber?
So I have the exact same story of someone who was half an Uber driver, half an accountant, to actually make their property dreams come true. And these are the stories where you get a sense of redemption at the end of the day. You really get a sense of victory.
And you and I both, and I want to say this not because we think we're better than everyone else. It's just Sean and I share a passion of trying our best not to use public transport. We just don't prefer it.
I mean, it's tough to use it though as well. Like, sometimes when you've got to be at multiple places at the same time,
correct.
You can't rely on if there's maybe a strike or I'm just being devil's advocate.
Unless we're going for dinner, then maybe the metro. Okay, but even
which I've never used till date.
Yes, you should try it. I'll tell you what, I was.
I'll make an event out of it. I'll invite all my friends.
Yeah, it's the best. It's
Producer
really
Ryan,
fun.
will you join?
It's a journey. It's a road trip for Vivid, right? So we can get real vivid. So anyway, long story short, these are things that we care about. We're like, oh, we don't want to take public transport. We want to do this. There's been a time, and I've always been, and this is the stupidest thing, and I have multiple debates, even though we work in finance and investments and stuff like that. I go, give me my car. I don't care. Take the house, take everything. My car, my laptop, got internet connection. I'll find my way. Don't worry about it. Right? And there was a time where I had to sell my car to settle a property.
What?
To chip in the difference, because the valves didn't stack in, this and that. There was an issue. And it was just deadline. Sold my car for almost 5 or 10 grand less, and I'm like, no, I'm going to settle this property. Now, long story short, that property is worth probably $500,000 more than what I paid for it some time ago. And then I took public transport for a while because I was broke. I had $80 left.
Oh no,
in my account. But I was like, you know what? I don't care. I've just been able to acquire another asset in my portfolio where on the books I shouldn't have been able to. Because that is what was important to me. Not looking cool to my friends, not going, oh, I got to take 2 hour. Then your passion or your goal is a convenience.
Right.
And anything that's a convenience is truly not your goal. It's just something you like to say, something that society thinks you should be saying, right? Like people who like, I don't talk about salads or diets or anything. Right. All right. I just don't want to have a heart attack, so make sure we walk. But like, I'm not sitting here and going, I'm going to be the next MMA fighter and then go and have a beer and a steak. Like, you know what I mean? Steak's not that bad, but whatever. You get the gist, right? So I feel that as much as I feel resilience, and I'm thinking from your conversation as well and what we were speaking about offline, your goal needs to be super important. You got to be honest with yourself. And if it's not, it's okay. And if people judge you and go like, you're weird. Like I was speaking to a client today in the office and I said, you know what? I love real estate. I absolutely love real estate. I totally believe in what we're doing. This is not a sales pitch. Everyone, if you can afford it, you must buy real. Whether through us, yourself, I don't care. Please make sure you own a piece of real estate, right? And it's really good for you long term. And I said to him, but if you came into my office and said, hey, dude, I've got 2 years to live. Should I still buy this deal? Should I do this? The question is, do you have kids of dependents who will depend on this? No. Buy a Ferrari. Go have a great time.
True.
Who cares? Who cares? You don't start saying stuff was don't start thinking stuff that you don't agree with.
Yep.
If you're someone who's conservative and goes, risk is bad, for me, that's just death suicide. Life's a gift. You got to push hard.
Yeah, it's like saying if you've got a week to live, are we going to be spending money on buying real estate for long-term growth if you know guaranteed you have a week to live? No, you'll spend on experiences that are
100%.
maybe for your family, or maybe you'll buy them something that they can use to multiply and take over.
100%.
So I think you're absolutely right. It's about understanding that if you summarized it well when you said if people are honest with themselves and they realize that this is what is going to make them fulfilled along the journey, but at the same time is going to help them reach a destination that they think is something worth a certain level of fulfillment, that's what you should decide to pursue. Because it could be medicine, it could be
anything,
logistics, it could be engineering, it could be anything.
Literally
right?
anything, because, bro, I know, everyone here in the business, we know, all of us on the strategy team, at least, that I can speak for because we hang out quite a bit outside of work as well, is we actually, whether I made $10 or $100, I genuinely love real estate. I actually do. It's not a job for me.
True.
I just think God's been kind. I'm being blessed that in today's society we can turn it into a business and look after our families. But honestly, whether I got paid or not, I would still be doing something in this field because I actually genuinely believe in it. I love it and it's my passion.
Yeah, I think that is a separator where sometimes people are really lucky to be able to do things that they love and have a lifestyle behind it. There's so many situations where people might love sports, but they genetically cannot compete. But then what do you do about it?
Play in your local cricket team.
Well, what do you do about it? So do you decide to say, okay, I might not be able to be the best batsman of all time, but am I going to decide to learn about the greatest techniques, about being the greatest coach of all time, and still be in the sport around the vicinity of what I love? I think that's what.
Or be a smart punter. Know how every game plays.
If you need some extra weekend tips, ladies and gentlemen, feel free to hit us up on the DMs. We'd be more than happy to help you make 350%.
I reckon you've nailed it today. I personally believe, not pumping your tires here, I think resilience is a direct correlation to how you really feel about the end outcome. And even if it doesn't happen in the stipulated time, it can be very frustrating. I've been there where you want to just crawl up under your desk and be like, oh my God, am I crazy to pursue this? But if your love for what you're doing is so high, that almost being resilient becomes easy because you love it so much. You go like, what is my alternative? I always ask myself this, and I'm sure you do the same. I'm like, yeah, this is annoying. This is taking longer than I think. It is very painful, but what is my alternative? And when I ask myself that, I go, right now, back on the goal because the alternative sucks. Yeah. For me. Yeah. But for some people, if your alternative is more exciting, maybe this wasn't your goal, and that's okay.
True.
You know, not everyone. No, I'm not going to say that. But anyway, all right. Before we wrap up, I've been sharing a couple of CBA reports and this and that. Yep. But I'm not going to be sharing a report with you. But I'm just want to quickly spend 2 minutes to make everyone aware, because again, going back to my agenda, if you will, is the media is irresponsible, and a lot of them just say stuff. And clearly, publicly, I've said this a few times, and I think a few other people are coming out and saying it's not really agreeing with the way the RBA governor is really addressing stuff. But again, so a lot of people know the word inflation. Inflation is great for people who own assets because your stuff just gets really, really expensive because it increases in value, right? But with inflation comes the cost of living going up and other challenges, but you can't win on the other end. So economic experts try and control the economy based on cash rate. So if they tighten up the belt for people, and it only affects a certain person. So imagine if you were someone who bought property in Sydney 40 years ago and you got a $50,000 mortgage, even if you had 8.5% interest rates, even if you're in a $100,000 job, you're okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But what's happening is the increase in interest rates is putting a squeeze on people, especially a very small part of the population that have recently purchased. Not all of them, certain people, right? Now, the biggest challenge of the RBA doing stuff like this leads to deflation, and no one really talks about it. A lot of people don't understand it, so I'm just gonna educate my audience a little bit on this. So, typically, deflation is a sign of a weakening economy, okay, or a contracting economy. Now, as much as it brings prices down, and people go, "Oh yeah, man! Like, wow, my beers are not $11 anymore; they're $5." You know, I don't have to buy a packet of chips for $20. It's back to being $3.50. Cars have become more affordable. Real estate rarely has a massive effect with deflation because real estate is a little bit more complex because labor, materials, price of land, availability, all of that plays a role. So yes, you do see a little bit of a correction, but you don't see it as much as you would see it in FMCG products or other consumer goods, electronics, and so on and so forth. So typically, deflation is a sign of weakening economy. Economists fear deflation because, and it is worse than inflation, because it leads to lower consumer spending, okay? Which is a major component of economic growth. So all inventions, having the new iPhone or having a new car or having 3D printed houses is all part of economic development. People are making money and they're taking a portion of that money and trying to invest that into reinventing how we live and experience things. Newer products, newer services, so on and so forth, right? Companies respond to falling prices by slowing down their production, okay? This further lowers demand on prices. However, for a period of approximately 5 to 10 years in a deflationary period, it leads to the largest unemployment and largest reason for poverty in a country. Because what happens is, say, automatically, like today we're recording at the Bella Vista Hotel, and let's just say instead of selling 3 drinks a minute, they go back to selling 3 drinks an hour. Suddenly, half the bartenders are gone.
Correct.
Right? Instead of selling 10 pizzas a minute, they go to selling 1 pizza every day. Suddenly, there's only 1 chef in here.
Correct.
Right? Now, that's not sustainable. They can't pay rent. They pack up shop. This building is empty.
Yep.
Now, you might think, oh, this is the perfect time to go and buy all of this up. The reality is you won't have the money because the likelihood of your business or your employment being in place is unlikely because there'll be huge amount of people out of jobs. So even if prices do come down and things do correct, deflation causes more damage to the economy, to individuals in a horrible sense, and creates more poverty. And the reason people should be worried about deflation and not get really excited saying, oh, things will get cheaper and things will get bad. When companies do well, and again, I'm not giving you a little capitalist speak. If we made more profit than last year, we could hire more staff for better customer service, more research, and at the end of the day, the clients benefit, right? So if these guys here made more money than last year, they would have more bartenders, so you'd wait less for your drinks. Your food would be served faster, and that evening, your experience overall will be better, and you'll be able to open more branches. That'll create more employment. These guys will work here, earn money. I don't know, go spend more on Coles, Target, wherever it is.
I think what you're explaining is the perfect demand and supply circle that makes up the whole economy. So a healthy level of deflation might be a good thing. Let's say, bricks start to cost a little bit less. Correct. That means houses to construct cost a little bit less.
But my argument is, instead of increasing interest rates, as an example, why aren't you releasing more land? Why aren't you supporting builders with price support? Perth is one of the largest manufacturers of brick. Right? Why are we still depending on foreign export? Why don't you reduce the tax or get rid of GST so bricks become 10% cheaper? Except for doing anything that will promote business, we're just trying to tighten the screws. Right? Right? And I'm giving you a very, very a short, it's a much larger conversation, but right now, if we continue down this path, inflation is a joke. Deflation is going to be worse for people. Reason being, even if there are discounts to be had, which they're not going to be because there's no supply in this country, the rich will just take everything because they have surplus money. They've been in the market for 10, 20, 30 years. They're in the top 1%. And the person who's been trying to get ahead suddenly has been paying so much rent, has no savings, suddenly is unemployed. So even if a property costed $50,000 less, can't borrow.
True.
Can't
So
borrow.
there's a self-insinuating cycle that people need to be worried about.
100%.
For sure.
So if you're sitting on the sidelines thinking, oh, the interest rates will bring down property prices, you're also going to understand with every interest rate rise, your borrowing capacity is reducing and rents are going up and cost of living is going up. And if they really, really put the hard brakes on it, you might be out of a job.
Yep.
You might be out of a job, right? So again, before people just jump on bandwagons and agendas and without really understanding stuff, Google it, study deflation.
Yep.
Right? On that note, ladies and gentlemen, that was my little 2 cents today. This is Friday Night Live. My name is Kesh. Sean, we'll do Rapid Robins when Mark's back.
Yep.
Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.
God bless.